No. So we are live and we're waiting for people to trickle in. This is our second live stream this year. This is a new format that we're trying out because there's always so much in the news. And that's running laps around our minds, and that's hard to process. This is the same intro I gave last week, but we're also going to be talking about the same topic as last week. We're going to, again, be addressing the Epstein files. Obviously, 3 million more of them were published recently. This is such a volume of information. I don't think anyone in the past days has been able to get a full picture. It's kind of impossible. So even like a professional newsroom, it took some of these outlets several days to even start reporting. So obviously what you're going to get from us is just bits and pieces because that's all that's feasible. But, well, we're going to connect it back to the work that we do in general, which is that depressingly, this is not some isolated case, but I mean, not only is it a global network of extremely brutal commercial sexual exploitation of women and girls and some boys, it just has too many horrific parallels to trafficking in general, to sexual exploitation in general, to intimate partner violence in general. Everything's linked. So welcome back. And I'm glad to have Sybil Jo with me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sybil Jo, one of our co-hosts here in the U.S., in the South U.S. specifically, Trump country. They actually, to give an idea of my cultural climate, my local government is proposing to name one of our highways Trump Highway. So everything that's going on this big stage is very relevant here. And I'm really looking forward to getting into these files with you, Ellie. To me, studying these big cases has less to do with the individuals involved. You know, I know that a lot of news outlets are really following the specifics of the cases, but I'm more interested in the big picture and the cultural norms that we can uncover through this. And I think the article that we're going to be looking at does just that, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty here soon.
Yeah, so we will be reading out and kind of giving our commentary on a really, really excellent article. Let me just quickly, because it deserves to be plugged multiple times. It is by Helen Rumbelow, and it was published in the Times. It's unfortunately behind a paywall, but if you find her on Twitter, some people have shared a gift link. So it's about, well, it's both analyzing the patterns in it and how that feels if you are female and aware of the female condition. And I mean, for the past a couple of days, I mean, I think it's the same for you, Sybil Jo, right? It's like a strange mix of, I'm not really shocked because I have seen a lot that's very much like this before, but also, but it's still heavy. That's not a contradiction.
Yeah. It goes back to what we were just talking about before we went live about no matter how much you know, it still hurts. They can still, and that's why we have to keep talking about it.
Yeah, so like almost every survivor of violence that I know, their perpetrator is running around free and was never held to account. So that's, I mean, I kind of put those puzzle pieces together at like age 16, 17. And that's the knowledge that I'd have had to live with and not let it steal my joy for life. Knowing that if something happened to me, if something happened again, if someone's abuser turned up again, there's not all that much that can be done. Like just the amount of evidence that's needed. If you're just, I mean, it's always, there's been a lot of debate right now about like ranking types of crimes. I've had some people talk about there's allegations that there was extreme violence against infants in the files, or there's testimony from a survivor who witnessed something like that, and now that's kind of being put as the bar. So I've seen two things. I've both seen people who are kind of putting the puzzle pieces together. Oh my God, you know, your average, as much as you can be an average rape survivor, abuse survivor is not believed and does not get justice. And now we're seeing it on this scale. This is why there's no accountability. So those guys up there also can get away with it. But then also other people ranking types of abuse and going, well, because obviously I'm saying a lot of the same profiles of the victims that were exploited by the Epstein ring are exploited by your average trafficking ring in my country, Germany, in the legal and illegal brothels here. And then people go, oh, but did they hurt infants? And then I go, women have actually there's a couple of women have given birth in brothels here. They're abusing pregnant women. I'm sorry, this is really heavy, but one woman in a legal brothel gave birth, and in post-birth psychosis, she threw her infant out the window. So I'm like, infant death happens here too. Not even getting into forced abortions, but the person went, yeah, but did they consume the infant? Because that's what's alleged in and like go like, oh, you can't talk about that because it doesn't go, you know. I'm like,
right, they set the bar so low and such, and it seems like they want a story. They want to be able to convince themselves that you can hurt women without hurting infants. And that's crazy.
Oh, I just see that we did get some comments. Oh, so just for people listening, definitely if you're on YouTube, I actually don't quite know how it works on Twitter or Facebook, you should be able to send us comments. We might not see them always instantly or react to them, but hello, Mom Spaghetti. So thank you for following us, and there's a bunch of comments trickling in. Okay, so this person commented, I find it so weird how everyone in the US is talking about pedophilia in the context of the Epstein files, and age of consent in Germany is 14. Mm-hmm. Exactly. This is not just in New York or just on the islands or even Dubai or like wherever else. I mean, I know he was globetrotting and abusing girls and his friends abusing girls when they landed, when they were in the air. But it definitely, like, for everyone who is, well, first of all, if you're in a country and there's evidence that anyone who is anyone in your country right now, that person is connected to this ring, you need to do everything you possibly can. So at the very least, they have to resign. That there have been some, resignations. Even better if is the possibility of any kind of prosecution. But if you're not in a position to do anything about that, or where you are personally, your local elite, you don't have evidence to suggest that they're culpable, these types of crimes are probably still happening in your cities and towns. And there is, like, looking at your age of consent, what's the prosecution rate? What's the sentencing rate? How many services are there for children and women in your area? Does it exist? Like, there's so many ways that you could get involved anyway, that you could use this rage and do something right at home, because yes, the age of consent in Germany is 14, and that should be a scandal.
I think I just learned that this week. I heard that on something I was listening to, and my jaw dropped. 14 with no stipulations, right? So a 40-year-old man.
So theoretically, you can sentence him, but the burden of proof, or the burden of is higher. There's an assumption that there could be, theoretically, a man of any age and a 14-year-old, and that's consensual. Can you prove an imbalance of power? So maybe if they're a teacher or a social worker dealing with,
but the age difference itself doesn't prove an imbalance of power.
Yeah,
that's crazy, and that's the argument. We in the U.S. here, we are talking about pedophilia, but we're debating it. First of all, so there's this. I had a high school friend, I think I mentioned last week, who I saw that he had posted something about there should be a different word for, it shouldn't be called pedophilia if it was 16-year-olds. There should be a different word for 16-year-olds and schoolgirls. And I just went off on him. But that is the mentality. All of these men in power, they're like, oh, but in other places, the idea of consent is really fluid and it's different in different places and it's cultural. And it really is kind of like a religious cultural belief that they hold, that this is acceptable. And we do have a higher age of consent here, although we do still have child marriage here, and not divorce. So in my state, a child can get married, a 16-year-old, 15-year-old can get married with their parents' consent, but she cannot initiate a divorce until she's 18.
What?
Yeah.
I would actually have to look up the marriage laws in Germany. I believe we set our age to 18 in the last decade or so, but that's still depressingly recent. And it had a lot to do with migration and parents who were fleeing wars, marrying off their daughters, thinking they'd be safer with a husband than without one en route to Europe. Which is just a form of girl trafficking. I mean, even if it might have been well intended, and that's how we, and that's where the debate came into the media. Like, oh, actually, why our laws don't separate these adult men from the girls? Do we need to do something? And there were like petitions, and feminists had to get active to go like, yes, for all the girls, the ones coming, the ones still here. Like, how the
and
law,
we have to stay active on it. It's not something. This is something that women have been working on since there have been men raping children, right?
Yeah.
There have been women fighting for this, and it's just it's a constant grind.
And is again, prostitution, the minimum age for prostitution in Germany only became 18, I believe in 2008. It was 16 before. And in Switzerland, it was 16 until 2013. So there are, I mean, I throw this fact out all the time, and I don't understand how this is not an international children's rights scandal. 16 and 17-year-olds in legal brothels in 100% living memory of most people alive, and men were making use of it. So it's kind of like what they'll go as low as they can legally. Too many men will. Far too many men will. And now in Germany, we're debating if we should raise the age to 21. And I would prefer it to be 21. There are some brothels who proclaim to self-impose 21. But then, they get busted, and it turns out actually a lot of the women are younger. But is this going to be fixed by age 21? Like, no, of course not, because the age is just it's important, and we talked about last time. It's important to say they were not trafficking just young women, but also children, mostly girl children in the Epstein case. But still, are we fixing the problem? If Epstein had only trafficked women over 21, is this much better? No. So.
Yeah. And, I think last week Merle spoke up against the term minors. And I've decided since then, I'm not going to accept that. That's a legal term. And if we're in a court of law, then I understand that that is the term that will be used. But we don't live in a court of law. We live in human bodies. And those girls are children. And like I said, the 21-year-olds, to me, as a 41-year-old, those 21-year-olds are children. They're the age of my children.
Yeah. And I'm 29 now, and I know there is a lot of difference between 29 and 21. Like, I'm 29, and I look at men, think younger than 20. I would not date somebody that's more than 3 or 4 years younger than me, because they seem childlike to me. That's not to say that, I got a brother in that age range that they never have anything interesting to say. I don't know if he's going to watch this and be offended. I'm not saying they are. they got nothing to say and not, but I don't see them as somebody who I could be in partnership with in a romantic sexual relationship with. Like,
yeah. And those kind of relationship ethics are fluid and are something that we grapple with in our personal lives every day. But as you're saying, on this larger scale, we have to be able to, in law, recognize predatory behavior, predatory patterning. And I'm always saying, I'm going to say Laura Richards' name until she hears me out in the ether, because she does amazing work on this. Oh, Ellie, you're frozen.
Oh, I'm back. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep. Yep, you're back.
My internet cut out for like a couple of seconds.
I don't know if you heard me, but I was saying,
I couldn't hear you anymore.
I was just saying we need to have a larger political, conversation within the culture about recognizing these predatory patterns. And I said, I'm going to say Laura Richards' name until it echoes out and she hears me and she comes on and talks to us. Because her work is just amazing in this. It gets down to the brass tacks of, like, we can get into all these little philosophical, like how old is too old and which age and da-da-da. What are the patterns that they are using to prey on people?
Yeah.
We can study the patterns and then make the laws around that. We don't have to get into what we think, what we feel. We have the data. If we just follow that, we can save lives.
Yeah, and it's not like there isn't plenty of legal scholars who have thought deeply about this and drafted alternative laws.
Yeah.
It's just not top of the political agenda. And I mean, I know there's lots of important issues clamoring to be on the political agenda, but women and girls, I mean, we just saw in Scotland was debating introducing the Nordic model. So that's decriminalizing exploited persons and also vacating their past criminal records, which a lot of them have, because in a lot of countries, it's only semi-illegal to so-called sell sex, and then you can end up with a criminal record. Or in Germany, you get fined up to a four-digit number. You get fined if you do not adhere to our regulations. Not
and
only
you get that red letter for the rest of your life.
Not only would have vacate been now possible for people, mostly women, to vacate their convictions, it would have also criminalized the buyers who exploit them to diminish the demand, and it would have put government responsibility to support women beyond condom distribution with like actual resources, would have put that on the agenda, and it was voted down. So that's depressing. And then somebody was saying the last time that Scotland even debated doing anything about their prostitution legislation, it was 2007. So that's like 20 years ago. So do we have to wait another 2 decades for anyone to put this issue on the agenda? And the reason they didn't pass the law was they were worried maybe it would make the market conditions worse for women. But they're totally fine waiting for the market conditions to get worse with the next pandemic, the next war, the next financial market crash, which men like Epstein are co-responsible for. The market crashes, the prostitution market crashes all the time. But they're like, oh, but if we have this law, and like, what if it makes it worse? What if it goes underground? Most of the industry is underground right now.
Yeah, that man. I bought that stuff when I was young and I was in it. I really bought that kind of line of thinking, and it's just straight. It's just nonsense. The reason that they don't want to pass it is because nobody wants to pay for cleaning up this mess. Yeah, and nobody wants to pay what they would have to pay to actually hold perpetrators accountable. Because again, going back to the Epstein. It's interwoven into every single layer of government, of business, of finance, and to pull on that string, they're gonna lose money. Everybody's gonna lose money, and they don't want to.
And as someone's pointing out in the comments, they're saying, I'm afraid prostitution is the opium for the men working for minimum wage. That's kind of what's that a lot of people have been pointing out. Yeah, okay, it's the elite men. And that I understand that takes priority, especially right now with the political situation. We have to hold them to account. But there is no, oppressed group of men or minority group of men who are not involved in crimes of these kinds in some way. Mm-hmm. And it's, why do we have to, whenever something happens like this, people just want to hone in and, and just take the small perspective and they go like, yeah, but not in my community, not my class, not my ethnicity, not my faith group. People were saying how like there's no Muslim men in the Epstein files, which is not true. There was like Saudi connections, etc. There was apparently a lot of a source country for trafficking, or at least facilitators of trafficking, was Turkey. It's like, why is it? But people don't want to accept that this is throughout 99% of
and because
living cultures.
The same cover-ups are happening on every scale. The same cover-ups are happening in business, in churches, in schools, in families. And the thing about the working class, I think that's absolutely right, is that, people always ask, why do the people in my area support Trump so much? Democrats always saying, white working class Southerners are voting against their own interests. What they don't understand is that they're voting for an ideology of domination. They say that guy he's a symbol for how we are to structure our relationships. And their promise when they vote for a big guy like that is that they're going to be able to structure their own relationships where they are the king in their little kingdom and they have slaves under them. It's a really mass marketing of you get to be, no matter what, like you said, no matter any class of men, they will have a woman under them.
Homeless men predate on homeless women all the time. All the time.
This is why many homeless women go into prostitution or we will pick the safest of the unsafe, right? This is why we don't see as many women on the streets. Because the men on the streets, at least the men in the houses or in the hotels, you have a bed and a shower.
And we have an entire episode about that where we actually cover, speaking of Neil Gaiman, we cover Neil Gaiman and how he exploited women for housing, for shelter. So we go through, we go over a definition of homelessness. We go over types of harassment and crimes against women looking for a home, and then how it ties into the Gaiman case. And I know we want to read out an article on Epstein, but just to pause shortly on Gaiman, he just came out with a statement. In the middle of this, he thought this was a fantastic time to announce to the world that he's innocent. And he pointed to some supposed anonymous journalist who has created an entire blog dedicated to Gaiman's innocence. And anyone who's looked into the Gaiman case know that even his version of the story is horrendous. So even his account is unacceptable. Never mind the account of the survivors. Mm-hmm.
I'm Googling it now because you just told me before we went live that he had issued something. Is it this journal, neilgaiman.com, Breaking the Silence?
I think that's it, yeah. And he posted a relatively short statement across all his social media. But I don't know if it's worth reading that because it's just like, this is a witch hunt, a terrible misunderstanding. I would never do this. And by the way, I'm publishing a new book. But yeah, the blog is super. I mean, I only skimmed because
that's what I'm doing right now. We've already heard, he's already said all of this. He's just so used to being able to say this.
And the theory goes, this is either his friend or himself. Because this blog was like pretending to cover pop culture, and they posted 4 articles and then went full crusader for Gaiman. So I would not put it past him to be But like, regardless of who's
That
authoring
is
it,
so sad. That
I
is such
know.
a sad, bloated old John masturbatory, like.
I was super depressed to hear he seems to still have access to his son, because he was saying he spends a lot of time being just a dad. And in the allegations of one of the women, at least one of them, who was an unpaid babysitter, she alleges, and when I say allege, I only say that for legal reasons. We believe her, that she was abused in the presence of the son. So
I listened to her account about that, and I definitely believe her.
Yeah.
That's.
And speaking of people bringing their children into it, we can connect that right back to Epstein, because one thing we've learned is that apparently there was I don't want to, well, I'm going to get the name wrong, but the Norwegian crown princess was asking for parenting advice for her son, who is now an accused rapist.
Yeah.
From Epstein? She wanted parenting advice from Epstein on how to introduce him to the world of women.
Well, and that reminds me of the James Dobson was in and that was a big deal to me, and in survivors of religious abuse circles, because James Dobson was a big parenting advice writer, I guess in the 80s and 90s, I don't know. Basically, my connection with him is when I was raising my kids, people were trying to push this ideology on me that I needed to hit them. And I was like, I'm not going to hit my children. We don't do that. But the fact, there's a great, I'm going to actually send you the link so that you can put it, that there was a great little short blurb that a YouTuber that I follow did on it. But that parenting, the parenting, the grooming, the pedophilia, the sexual crimes, they all tie together. They're all pieces of one big, disgusting knot.
Yeah. And people will literally, there's also there's evidence to suggest that people were trafficking their daughters to Epstein and his ring, and I mean elite people. So so you're not even safe as a daughter of the uber rich, which I mean, we already knew that you're not safe from domestic violence or incestuous violence. So that's, but for them to traffic, I mean, well, you go back in history and noble families are trading their daughters like cattle to each other.
Yeah, women are the first property. And when you get at every level, when you get to those levels of money doesn't even mean anything anymore. What means something? What has value? What has inherent value? Our daughters. Yeah.
So should we get into the article? Because it helped me streamline certainly a lot of what I'm feeling and thinking, and the patterns that need to be pulled.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to read it, and then I'll stop every, a couple paragraphs to see what we want to interject. It's not very long.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a sip of my tea.
And again, we will link to it so that people can give the author, the journalist, some love, because she went into the sewers for us here.
Yeah, big time. This might be hard to read, actually, but it's real. When I was skimming it before we started, I was thinking about, you're often talking about, I've heard you speak about the John's forums in Germany, where they go and they talk about the girls that they use. And this is the mother load of that.
Exactly. With the same, sorry, this is not the key point, but they are also horrible at spelling and punctuation. So this is absolutely horrific abusive language from the elite of the world that cannot spell and cannot, if they, I'm trying to make a point where if they had written it up perfectly, that wouldn't make it better, obviously. But it's like insult to injury that they're like, I mean, you'll hear some excerpts to get an idea of the language. But on top of that, you know, because you can just picture the guy and he's sitting on his yacht or whatever, and he's like, you know, and then like whatever, and like everything is careless. Everything about this is absolutely careless. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, because they are. Right. This is from the New York Times. I studied the latest Epstein files. As a woman, this is what I felt. By Helen Rumbelow. Helen Rumbelow. To enter the Epstein files, as I did one bleak Sunday evening, a pop-up asks, "Are you 18 or over?" If you click yes, the United States Department of Justice website responds, "Thank you for verifying your age." Is this a joke? A meta-commentary on how little we do to prevent harm to children? As the hours of my time on the site turn into days, I start to see these files themselves as a Rosetta Stone through which women might understand male power. Powerful men often have their identities in the emails and message chains redacted. Powerless girls have their faces in photos blacked out. Yes, there are publicized emails such as Epstein's draft alleging Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, acquired an STD from having sex with Russian girls, or Richard Brannon advising Epstein on how to recover from his little sex-offending public relations problem. Branson requests Epstein visit his Caribbean island again, as long as you bring your harem. The DOJ has cautioned that the release may include fake or falsely submitted images, documents, or videos. Yet the 3 million files are a vast, careless jumble that takes shape the more you read. There are multiple sets of soap on a rope in the shape of vaginas, girls' disembodied limbs, and rich, often anonymized men using punitive, humiliating terms for women. There are Epstein searches for porn using categories like wild teen and sexy teen babe, right next to depositions of young girls talking of being raped. I read the Palm Beach report from 2006. Her head was being held against the table forcibly as he continued to pump inside her. That led to men in power letting Epstein off with a slap on the wrist. Slowly, as I read on, file by file, it all started to connect. Virginia Giuffre, Epstein's most prominent victim, called her memoir Nobody's Girl. Those black boxes of redaction are little black boxes of power. Some men are protected because they are worth something, while the girls look like parts, not human. I saw the men organizing into a club via their endless sycophantic emails, taken seriously by their friend Jeffrey, while seeing the girls' beheaded bodies, the difference between somebodies and nobodies.
Can we take a quick breath here? Yeah. So you already mentioned the John forums. If you and it's a really important point about the disembodied heads, where you can't see faces, but you can see the bodies. And okay, they say this is to protect the anonymity, but they've not consistently blacked out the names. So these files doxed several Epstein survivors who did not want to be public. So this is if
and to redact the
more
heads,
carelessness.
They redacted the bodies as well. They could have. They didn't have to show her splayed out like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and where it connects for me is I've spent some time on the prostitution buyer. I always find it hard how to name this group of men, but I feel like that term's probably clear. I've spent time on their forums, but I've also spent some time on modern legal prostitution advertising sites in my country. And headless bodies is exactly what they look like. So understandably, most of the women in legal German prostitution don't want to show their faces because of the obvious consequences that still exist, like
harassment, stalking, discrimination,
very
ostracization.
Absolutely. So they don't put them in the ad. So but men want to get a preview of what they perceive as the goods. So the result is that you scroll through a sea of headless bodies, and you can see breasts, and I don't know if you can see vulvas. I would actually assume that you do. There was a paywall feature for that, which I obviously didn't pay, but I'm assuming that hits some of the even more explicit photos. But even just seeing naked upper bodies and no face is disturbing. But this is what prostitution advertising looks like. I was not on some dark net website of human trafficking. This is the legal, which also doesn't mean that none of these women are trafficked. There's nobody verifying who the women behind the profiles are. Trafficked women have reported repeatedly that their traffickers run the ads. Yeah. And if any man contacts them, that's who they're talking to. But to bring it back to Epstein, I know we don't want to linger too long with the individual men because we want to take the big picture, but Bill Gates deserves a special mention because he spent decades presenting himself as a philanthropist, including, STI prevention programs, HIV programs, which is one of the sort of entry doors for the pro-prostitution lobby. The pro-prostitution lobby has spent the last decades trying to profile themselves as the number one crusaders against STIs. And they claim that legalizing prostitution diminishes infections because supposedly you can somehow make the buyers do 100% condom use, which doesn't even protect against all STIs. But anyway, it's a big fever dream. And a lot of the organizations, this is not conspiratorial, like you can verify this. And we will actually have someone on the podcast to talk about this specific issue. You can look into a lot of these anti-AIDS or anti-STI charities. And I'm not saying none of the work they do is good, but they have been ideologically taken over by the pro-prostitution lobby. So their goal is not to get women who are sick or have an unwanted pregnancy or whatever out of the industry, but to kind of make it a little bit easier for them to remain, because it would be stigmatizing to emphasize exit. This is a lot of these organizations' ideology, and that money didn't just come from anybody. It came from several different people, but Gates was an international leader, and we now have evidence to suggest that he could be, it's not implausible, that he is a buyer of sexually exploited women, and that he too is one of those guys who does not want to use condoms. Which the hypocrisy of that is off the scale. And
and that's been going on since forever, right? Control the disease in the dirty women so they don't give it to me.
Yes.
As opposed to stop the men from spreading this. What you said about the redacted photos and the brothel photos, that's exactly the feeling that it gives me. And I think that's what she's talking about here is they included their names. So they're lying that it's for anonymity. It's to create pornography. I feel like taking off their heads creates this titillation. Playing in our face. The whole thing is just playing in our face.
I absolutely think that there's some men looking at this and finding it titillating because, well, now you've got the confirmation that those are victims and a lot of them are underage. It doesn't get any more titillating for somebody who, like we talked about with Derek Jensen, someone who's so empty inside that what thrill is left but to violate the ultimate boundary, which is children. So this is, unfortunately, this is material that I strongly assume is now playing a role in some men's masturbation routines. I think that's...
And that's a good moment for me to plug what I'm always saying. All pornography leads to pedophilia. Always.
The teen category that Epstein and associate loved is super popular. And that we've been gaslit for ever since, I guess 100 years now, that images and videos of extreme acts and less extreme acts, but still like to have either actual minors because children, because sometimes if you open a porn video, you've got no idea how it was created. You cannot verify. There's probably, I mean, there could be material of Epstein victims on porn sites right now. I mean, but also, okay, let's say she's 18 in a day, but they've put her in pigtails and a school uniform. And if we've been gaslit for a long time that is a harmless fantasy, but that's exactly what these guys were watching. So,
shall I continue?
Yes.
But it does not mean those men are not revealed, and that something important about our society is not revealed. The sensation of clicking on Epstein files is like taking the back off of a world clock. We see behind the grand facade, usually presented by men who run the planet in government, academia, royalty, and business, from presidents to Andrew, the former prince. We see the contrast between their public distancing and their private networking. But we also see their everyday exchanges, making the cogs of the world turn, oiled by porn-saturated woman-hating. Jane Austen famously almost never wrote dialogue between men without women present. She wouldn't know how it sounded. Now, as a woman, I was allowed into the Epstein files, grandly named on the website as the Epstein Library, like those gentlemen's clubs with their leather chairs housing male-only libraries of obscenity. It is a unique chance to be privy to how lawyers, politicians, and celebrities speak when us pussy, in their terms, is out of the room where it happens. Or in one email between two people whose identities are redacted, one unnamed Epstein connection quotes, "Gentlemen," he said to the men in the crowded the room, "is there any reason why we shouldn't begin to talk cunt right away?" No reason at all. Let us begin. I gotta take a breath. These are going to be hard to read.
Let me know if you want me to take over.
No, it's good. No, it's great. I love it. And she censors her quotations in here. I'm not going to, if that's okay.
Oh no.
Can we speak frankly?
Yeah, no, we don't do that on this podcast, even though it hurts us a bit in the algorithm. When I'm publishing prostitution buyer quotes, I used to have there's still a blog, but the new ones I've all put on Instagram. Instagram I would keep getting in trouble. And I have to put a big banner on there saying, this is for educative purposes. I am not promoting, because I would get flagged for promoting prostitution.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, how the rules always get applied in a certain direction.
But I mean, women who have OnlyFans accounts, and a platform like that, a profile for a platform like that can have a 100,000 million follower account. That's not a problem. So that doesn't get flagged, and that's its whole own complicated thing, because there's so much hate at the moment or has been ever since OnlyFans popped up. It's a lot of like, oh, these are gold diggers. That I definitely want to cover that another time. There's so much there where people fall for these. The photos look glamorous. It looks like she's traveling to another beautiful destination every weekend, and then she's there in a bikini and showing as much as allowed on Instagram, and people really blame those women. And we can get into the details of that another time. If people's analysis stops there, like, oh, they're grooming, like these accounts are how girls are getting groomed into the industry. I'm not saying that they are not part of the mechanism, but if you stop there, you're not seeing the huge group of men
I'm willing to bet
who make up the demand for all of that.
If we take care of the Johns and the pimps, I'll bet those women will sort themselves out. I mean, like, let's deal with the problem first, and then let's see where the cards fall.
And you can't sell without a buyer. I don't follow a single porn account. It's not that hard. And I know some men who also don't follow a single porn account. It's not that hard. It's a big topic. We'll return to it.
All right. All right. Why shouldn't we begin to talk cunt right away? In 2005, Access Hollywood recorded a conversation with Donald Trump saying, "When you're a star, they let you do it. You can grab anything. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything." I'm not going to do a Trump impersonation. I don't do that. It was met with public condemnation, not only in Trump's reduction of women to a seizable part, but in his impunity. That condemnation did not reach the private messages of the vast network of men the files show were centered on Epstein. Andre Serrano emailed Epstein 3 days after the Access Hollywood tape was released in October 2016, saying, "I was prepared to vote against Trump for all the right reasons." Serrano is a New York artist whose photographs include those of women bound by the wrists and splattered in blood, but so disgusted by the outrage over "grab them by the pussy." Serrano continued, "that I may give him my sympathy vote." Epstein responds minutes later, "No good choice. How are you?" That really stuck out to me. The bit about so disgusted by the outrage over "grab them by the pussy." I feel like that really encapsulates the debate going on in my country right now.
And we
These
talk
people
about
are disgusted.
And we talk about like, is violent like an accident of nature, or do I don't know, men just get led by their urges, but they think we deserve it. This is so clear.
They're disgusted if we don't
take it lying down. Say it.
Yeah, that language, like you said, all of the other language is so casual, so careless, and like there's emotion in that line. That's what they have emotion about, is us saying no, I guess.
And I also quickly want to address how we've been gaslit for years about male artists. Of all stripes, but let's stick with painters, visual artists. I think all of us have seen the work of a male artist and gone, I think he hates women. I think women are not safe with him, only to be told he is edgy, brave, boundary pushing. This is a commentary on the decay of society. He doesn't actually find this arousing. Ironic. Yeah. I remember distinctly.
And then when they find out that he's abusing women, they say, "We'll separate the art from the artist."
Because it's a classic now. We don't want to, topple those statues. I remember distinctly, because I am a former art student, so my bachelor's degree is in arts and computer programming. Which I really liked, like we toured like all the museums where I used to live in a big city. We toured all they have amazing, huge art museums, everything like from Egyptian, Roman, Greek up to the modern day. And but there was a special exhibition by a modern artist, and what he was doing, he kept painting these alien creatures that were kind of insect-like, but with gigantic, pointy. What do you call it? When an insect bites you, they do it with their sting. Is it a sting?
So some sting and some bite, but yes, you say sting.
So these like gigantic, pointy, sharp sting things coming out, these alien creatures, and then naked women, often with their legs spread. And I was like, I do not want to see this. What's on his hard drive?
And what they want to look us in the face and tell us it means nothing. It's so funny how they want to have it both ways. Like, you've dedicated your life to art. Art means something, right? Art affects people. Art changes people. But then when we talk about the art of violence against women, it's just, I just stuck it in there for no reason.
And two things. One, Epstein was a collector of horrific abuse and child abuse art. He had it all over his house, and his victims would talk about how this was psychological. This was part of the psychological torture.
Yeah.
that you're walking in there and you're like, what is this? And you're being gaslit when you're
Yeah.
about to be tortured or after you're tortured. It is actually laughing at victims. And what was the second part? There is art by survivors of violence that is also disturbing to look at, but it's not dehumanizing. This can be done. And I'm blanking on her name now, but there's an amazing survivor of trafficking. We should have her on the show. She does. No, I'm totally blanking. I will look this up, and
we'll pop it in the.
So, to my point being, you can make art about violence. You can actually push the boundaries of what's acceptable or bearable to look at without eroticizing, perpetrator protecting. Like, it's possible.
And that art exists within a context, and we are allowed to examine it in that context. This whole separate the art from the artist, it's just thought-stopping cliche.
It's also, for me personally, not possible. Like, once I know, like I have a, I got my own list in my head. If I learn about allegation against a man or what he's been sentenced for, and then I see him on a film or like pop up wherever, this is the first thing that comes to my mind. And that's how the culture should be, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what it's refusing to do. This outranks everything else he's done. I don't care about his art or his charity or his intellectual contributions. This is how you act towards the most vulnerable in society or people you have power over. This is what defines you more than anything else.
Well, and again, it's the context. Art is an extension of the artist. There is no art is meaningful because it's one person being able to affect another person at a distance and to spread a message at a distance. So yeah, whatever comes out, you have to look at everything in context. And to your point, this is why I almost exclusively read or listen to or enjoy female artists. And if I ever do, like, I never get my hopes up about a male artist anymore. I had one other thing to say and I lost my train. I'm sorry.
How you interact with art, what you avoid, prioritize, experience, analyze.
Oh, yeah, no. And you said, and that's the first thing that pops into your head. For me, it's the first thing that pops out of my mouth as well. If some people are talking, somebody brought up recently, they were watching Annie Hall, and I was like, oh, he's a pedo.
Like, is that a Woody Allen movie?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll talk more about
and
him.
They said,
sure he'll come up.
They said, oh, I didn't know that. And I was like, oh, no, everyone knows. But I'm going to say it every time.
Married to his former adoptive daughter. And the daughter he's blood related to alleges abuse when she was about toddler age. And this is verified by Mia Farrow, who's the mother. And I mean, Woody Allen is its own very dark rabbit hole.
But again, it's still in popular culture. It's so casual, and I won't let it be.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone in the comments says, all my homies hate Woody Allen. Yes. That's the only appropriate response. Like, I mean, if we don't draw the line at child rape, okay, what's the...
Well, like you said, eating infants.
That's the line?
That's the line.
Oh, so, okay.
And then once we get to that line, we'll see where the line has moved.
Yeah. They only did it once. I don't know. Okay.
That brings up, I go a lot of different directions, but let's finish this article.
Yes.
Epstein in 2016, email exchange with Noam Chomsky, the public intellectual writer of himself. I concede sexism. Since Jeffrey was saying that about himself. But it's deeper than that. Germaine Greer once wrote that women have a very little idea how much men hate them. Half a century on, I had some idea when I read Epstein's note to himself about an unnamed woman. Wrinkly old hag Just because she is rich, she thinks she can talk down to everyone. Irony noted. Everyone knows her husband is fucking young Russians, nasty cunts, bag of cottage cheese in her pants. This makes Epstein's description of Sarah Ferguson, whom Epstein seems to have used to get closer to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, positively benign. Epstein forwarded a friend a link of a newspaper photo about Ferguson. Pic of F from Friday, not the prettiest sight. Most men in Epstein circles are apparently heterosexual, but they treat each other with grand romance. Men are for lofty declarations of yearning, misogynistic banter, and intellectual advice, while young girls are for sex and thrown away, and grown women are mostly useless, except that if they service it all. One friend of Epstein, email identity redacted, wrote to him in 2012, arranging to meet, complaining about his wife driving him fucking crazy. 26 years with the same miserable cunt. Looking forward to seeing you, my friend. Epstein's powerful middle-aged male friends tell him they dream of him. Peter Adia, the longevity guru and doctor of Epstein, emails the billionaire to say he gets JE withdrawal when I don't get to see him. Oh my goodness.
This is like, it was, I mean, this is what you would say to a lover, you know? And I'm not insinuating that anyone's like gay. To like point at these men and say, oh, they're gay. I feel like that's just introducing homophobia. I actually quite dislike when people dislike a man and then to like degrade him, they say he's gay. People do that about Andrew Tate a ton. So that's not what I'm saying at all. But like,
that is true. But I think it is also true that highly patriarchal, highly misogynistic circles are very homoerotic.
Yeah.
And there's something in that sublimated homoerotic energy that they build up with themselves.
And also bringing it back to your regular brothel, these men will be very like, you know, proud of being men and being heterosexual, and then they it's not that rare that men go in pairs or groups to a brothel here in Germany, and or I've heard about it other countries as well, and they are in the same, they're exploiting women side by side, so they're literally doing sex acts to women or having women endure doing it to them.
Well,
while
this is a theme of a lot of pornography too. Yeah.
So you can literally see your bro, you know, abusing the woman, like, I don't know, half a meter away from you. And this is some form of extreme nightmarish male bonding that happens in regular legal prostitution. Not dark. I mean, there's we will have another episode coming out on the Pellico case, which is an extreme form of this, but it's again, these are not separate from the day-to-day of prostitution.
Yeah, there's something about they are building a sexual bond with each other in the way that we think of pair bonding, but they're doing it to this larger group. And I think this is relevant to how these groups of men move in the larger scheme, how they, you know, they're so loyal and they're so bonded. I think there's something going on there. Yeah.
And I love my female friends. We do not sleep with our partners in front of each other. This is not a thing. And I'm, you know, if people want to have a threesome with somebody consensually, I'm not talking about that. I'm, you know, it's not, this is not a weekend activity. Like no equivalent that I understand exists in a healthy friendship between any people of either any combination of male, female, whatever. I don't know if that needed to be pointed out, but
no, women don't do this. But I think it's relevant because I'm always bringing all of these conversations back to how does this trauma train us? Sex has a unique ability to format the mind, right? And to format relationships. And these perpetrators have a finger on that. They study this, and I think that their actions sometimes to us seem ludicrous or pointless or meaningless, but there's a purpose to these practices. Like I said, the purpose of bonding a group of men together in this sublimated homoerotic homosexual way. Sean Combs, with his use of prostituted men, yeah, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going with that thread, but I'm always coming back to what is the purpose of this? How are they using these practices to gain the power that they have?
And people talk about blackmail. So there's lots of evidence that these men are also blackmailing each other. So there's nothing remotely authentic about any of these friendships. But they're definitely also bonding at the same time. So it's both.
The blackmail is part of the bonding. It's a dysfunctional codependent relationship, right? Where we have mutual vulnerability and that bonds us together. Yeah. Gay. Sorry.
Do you want to continue?
Yes. Adia states in 2016 email that pussy is indeed low carb to Epstein, then registered as a sex offender because he had coerced a minor into prostitution. So often I read through message chains, unsure whether or not the men are joking. Martin Nowak, a Harvard professor of biology, emailed Epstein in 2014 about a spy with the words, "Did you torture her?" No context is given. Earlier in 2002, Nowak emailed Ghislaine Maxwell to thank her for her amazing hospitality with a little apology about a near miss. "I am so very sorry I caused you so much worry and that I spoiled this day. I am so happy that I did not kill anybody. My perspective of life has changed somehow. Lots of love, Martin." Again, who knows? Steve Bannon, former chief strategist for Trump, in a text message exchanged with Epstein in 2018, is, again, like so many men, trying to help Epstein to rehabilitate his sex offender reputation. Bannon asks Epstein if any of his girls would testify on his behalf. "The girls can be forced to testify on video," Epstein replies chillingly. Bannon answers, "What about establishing the major center for human trafficking, teenage prostitution, etc., etc., etc.? Global problem needs to be solved." If this is dark humor, it is as black as hell. If it isn't, well, the same. Epstein continues in the same exchange, speculating that if there is a Senate hearing, "I guess I can mimic Kavanaugh," referring to Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. "Yes, Senator, I like pussy. Pussy, yes. Don't you, Senator?" Bannon replies, and this time I am confident it is a joke, attempting to emasculate senators. 80% answer, "What's pussy?" This is the register in which these men talk. Women are pussies, bitches, and whores. In 2011, Epstein emails Eduardo Teodorini,
No
I don't care about any of these guys. A relative of Italy's Agnelli dynasty, asking him if he knows a contact. Teodorini emails back, "No, I don't know him. How are full of new pussy around?" Sorry, that's
what I was talking about.
That's not exactly a sentence. How are full of new pussy around? In 2016, Stephen Hansen, a friend of Epstein, emails him to call an unnamed girl a rotten bitch. Hansen's association with this person he calls a psycho out of her mind bitch is threatening his relationship with his, irony alert, daughters. "Thinking this could get out of control and affect my family, especially the girls. I could never imagine not being close to them," Hansen writes. Jeez Louise. Someone, identity redacted, emails Epstein in September 2016, entreating him to meet in New York. promise an abundance of young pussy flesh. Lawrence Krauss, a professor of physics at Arizona State University, is in correspondence with Epstein about a conference focusing on female leadership. Krauss suggests, let's do a Men of the World conference and list men accused of sexual misconduct, including Bill Clinton, Al Franken, and Woody Allen. Speak of the devil. Krauss also asks Epstein's advice on what appears to be a misconduct allegation made against himself. Krauss emails Epstein to say, both you and I agreed that Melanie is a cunt who may have given herself enough rope to hang herself if things are done correctly. An associate of Epstein, name redacted, sent him an email in 2015 discussing the perils of age. I had a funny one last week. How the hell does someone say to a new girl before she flies out, I wish I could get naked, but I would be late for dinner? It's like some pussy caution light comes on at 30. The satirist Paul Krasner emailed Epstein in 2017 to relate a picture he knew depicting the story of Jesus and the adulteress. Her head would be bleeding from the stones that had been cast upon her and are inadvertently showing her sweet, shocking, vulnerable pink pussy. The woman's suffering is what is erotic. I think I'll pause there.
A lot of that speaks for itself, I think, because they are that cryptic.
That's why I said this really reminds me of the John forums. And
yeah,
you know what she says at the beginning of this article, her whole premise here about being in conversations that men have. I think that survivors, I think that's one of the biggest things that we carry with us, survivors. We have been in those conversations because they talk to us the way that they talk to each other. And so a lot of times we might have a perspective or a point of view on a man. I have this happen to me all the time where women who have not been in those conversations, you know, they are not privy to the context of what's being said. Just one more reason why we have to talk and listen, have survivors in these conversations. And it's funny how Woody Allen popped up, and the art, going back to this painting of Christ and the adulteress.
And someone was also just commenting just a couple of minutes ago about one of, there's got to be many, but one of Woody Allen's victims, which is again, who, I don't want to say wife.
You said former adopted daughter, but to me, if you are somebody's parent, if you act as a parent to somebody, that is a lifelong obligation. That's you're
totally right. I was looking for a way to say it, and
I know.
It's not the woman who he should have treated like a daughter and treated like a rape slave. And her name is Sun Yi, and someone's just commenting, and I've seen what they're referencing, which is that she was in direct contact with Epstein, and they were talking about Anthony Weiner, who was a American politician who was caught trying to groom a teenage girl. Is that, do you know more about that case?
I vaguely remember that. You know, the scandals are just
there's too many to keep all the details. Like, you know, I remember the guys' names, but I don't always remember exactly what the allegations are. But I'm pretty sure it was about a minor, a girl. Sorry, I said minor for the last 10 years. That's what all the research and the police reports. This is the language in there, so now it's in my vocabulary. So the girl child that Weiner was trying to groom, and in her email to Epstein, Sun Yi reverses victim and offender and talks about how this girl is trying to ruin this adult man's life. Well, she's the girl who had her life ruined by her adoptive father. And then people are discussing how much she needs to be held to account. I'm sorry, does Sun Yi have any societal cultural power? I've never, other than being paraded around by her abuser, I've never seen this woman anywhere doing anything. And people are like, she's part of the problem.
That's that. I don't even know what I can say about that.
So who was it who said like a compass pointing to north, the accusing finger of a man always finds a woman? If you want to point at a woman, Ghislaine Maxwell's right there. Or Maretta Maria, whatever the Norwegian crown princess is called. There's definitely women that we should be talking about. But Sun Yi, she has had no normal life ever. So adoption in of itself is traumatic. So every adopted person I know has trauma from the adoption. And we actually need to do an episode about adoption and the care system, or a series. Yeah. So that's a trauma. And then you go into a family, and statistically, if you're not blood related to the men in your household, your risk of abuse rises astronomically. That's not. Have we mentioned Trump this entire time? We have to seriously consider that Trump also abused Ivanka. We have to seriously consider that. If this, we definitely not. I mean, we're also so sick of Trump that I don't. And then he's clearly not the only one, but let's not forget him here. And if
it frustrates me, it really frustrates me, and same as with what you were just saying about the OnlyFans, that we put the onus on the women who are so tangled up in these circles. We hold them to such high account, like
they've never had a normal
life. It's complicated. We always have complicated conversations. I think of this in my own family. I think intergenerational trauma is so complicated, and who is accountable for what, and who, what was a choice and what couldn't be a choice.
Yeah.
But those conversations, those aren't the conversations we need to be having in public. Those aren't.
The culture's not ready. This is like.
Well, and we have much bigger fish to fry. Like, again, once we take care of the pimps and the Johns, the abuse of women, women will sort ourselves out. We can address and hold each other to account. We don't need to be doing that.
And again, who is in prison right now? Only one woman. And this other thing we haven't talked about, last time we held ourselves back, which is that, and now I feel almost like the discourse is giving permission. I don't wish prison on these perpetrators, including Maxwell. I wish death on them, which we were too scared to say last time because I
feel the way I was going to say it is I feel very biblical about it. There are certain diseases, cultural diseases, that there's just no place. There's no place in society for that. At the very least, complete ostracization. That's what we were talking about, is ostracization. But then how could that possibly work? And do you put them all on an island? They can't be around us.
Yeah. And from what I hear, the prison Maxwell is in is cozy.
Oh, of course.
That's like.
Of course it is.
I'm sure she lives better in that prison than
she's the queen.
25.
She gets everything she wants.
I'm sure she lives better than like a third of Americans. At least maybe that's a conservative estimate. Yeah. Is there still a little bit more of the article?
Yes. Let me see how much. Okay, I'm going to try to just finish it out so that we can. Oh, I lost my spot. I'm sorry.
No rush.
Here we go. Yeah, that image of Christ and the adulteress. I don't think I want to say it again. Sweet, shocking, vulnerable pink pussy. My God. It is biblical. It's all related. And in 2012, Boris Nikolic, a long-term associate of Epstein, sent him details of the 40th birthday party of Kimball Musk, Elon's brother, at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York. The password, Nikolic emails, is Pussy Riot. I'm not joking about the password. On X, Musk's platform. Does anybody else do? I think we talked about this with Sean Combs too. The juvenile language, the 13-year-old, like they're using disgusting language, but they're not even using it like adults.
It's not vaguely sophisticated.
On X, Musk's platform, a member of the Russian dissident music group named Pussy Riot posted yesterday, I had already been in jail for 7 months by then and was about to be sent to one of the most brutal labor camps in Russia. Nikolic says he is not joking about the password, but women are ultimately always the butt of the joke. No, don't do that. Sorry, the cat's trying to get on the table. Not right now, baby.
Oh, hello. He's allowed.
He'll knock over my microphone.
Oh.
Roger Schenck, the Yale AI professor, wrote to Epstein in 2010, advising Epstein to pick ambitious goals for himself. This is why I lost interest in pussy. I knew I could have any girl I wanted on my terms. In 2012, Brian Vickers, a NASCAR race car driver, sent Epstein an email titled Male Fairy Tale. This is about a prince who fucked skinny, big-titted broads, it begins. He dated women half his age and never heard bitching and never paid child support or alimony and ate the pussies and ass-fucked cheerleaders and kept his house and guns. Jesus. Epstein forwarded the email to one of his buddies. This is the world of Epstein's male cabal. And I know it's not all men, but still, it's a lot of powerful men. Meanwhile, in the exchanges I read between Epstein and the girls he uses for sex, he is scolding and haggles over money. A few stand up to him. One says in a text message of 2015, since the first time I've met you, I told you 2 things. 1, I don't want to get involved in orgies and be the girl who brings you girls. And 2, I will not have sex with your friends. More fragments of testimony from young victims cross my screen. Forced, injured, damaged, bleeding. In the text exchange with Bannon, Epstein wrote, like Schrodinger's cat, I'm both male deplorable and an elite at the same time until someone opens the box. This is one of the most self-aware descriptions I saw in hundreds of Epstein files. Epstein is both a male deplorable and an elite at the same time. He thought the two could never coexist, but of course he was his own proof that he was very wrong. Epstein is not alone. And for a brief moment, women can finally open up the box.
Really, just thank you to, sorry, what's her name again? Rumbelow? I want to...
Helen Rumbelow.
Thank you, Helen Rumbelow. All I have on my phone is really, really messy notes of just oh my God, this seems important. This over, she made it coalesce. Mm-hmm. So without sparing the reader, pretty much. What I guess the only part that's not in there is the allegations of homicide of victims of all ages. Well, mostly young, including children and infants. And somebody is saying the kitty is too innocent to hear that.
No, they don't know him very well. And somebody is saying the kitty is too innocent to hear that. You put in your earbuds so you can hear. Can you still hear me, Ellie?
Yes, I can.
Every time today when I thought I turned my microphone, I think that's the reason we had I think I'm on the wrong microphone.
Oh.
Because I've been turning my microphone off when there's noise, but I think I did a bad job at that.
I didn't. You sound fine to me. I didn't even realize.
Oh. Well, that's okay.
Well, we'll figure out this set up next time. As long as it works now, I think we're good. But
I'm sorry
I did
to interrupt.
No. And this is where, again, the Epstein case is not light years away from a lot of how the prostitution industry functions. there in Germany, we have judges and cops intimidated by the trafficking rings who supply a lot of our brothels, legal and illegal, and gray area. Where they personally intimidate our judicial class. That's not even getting into how the judicial class and the cops are among the buyers, and it's sometimes involved in the trafficking rings. This does not just happen in the Epstein case; happens everywhere, and women end up dead. So I will at some point this year have an expert on prostitution context femicides. And I've spent some time myself looking at the data. There's a project called Sex Industry Kills, which is run by a number of feminists, a number of whom are also survivors themselves, where they track, globally available cases. There is no data bank that is being run professionally. Of course, this is like grassroots, donation-based. That's always who has to track these. No one's tracking. Hardly any country ever even tracks their femicides. So this is just putting in a Google alert and then looking at what comes up. Anyway, from this data, we can glean absolutely that trafficking rings do execute victims. This is both when they're trying to escape or report, or when they're too ill to be exploited. And you have to consider that there's buyers willing to exploit women on death's door. You have to consider what kind of condition does a young woman have to be in for a buyer to go, actually, now it's grossing me out. For even like the last group of sadists to go, no, thank you. And so people do not want to believe that this is in any way common.
Well, and like she says in the article about, what did this person mean? I'm glad I didn't kill anyone.
And then, of course, there's the whole part where
people think that's tinfoil hat. People think that's like eating babies is so far out of the realm, but it's not. Like you said, we have the data. We know it's not.
And things that they call sex or sex acts include very overt torture, things that would be torture. We have another episode where we talked to Linda MacDonald and Jean Sarson, who coined the term non-state torture, to talk about how in intimate partner violence, prostitution, etc., men do things to women that if the state did to a prisoner, it would be considered torture. But somehow we don't use the word for women, which, by the way, includes just a lot of. I'm not just talking about BDSM acts that can strangle somebody or give them brain injury. I'm also just having hands on you and something inside your body that you do not desire is already torture. So it's not rape and torture, it's rape and other forms of torture. What was I trying to get at? So
I would like to say, anybody who hasn't listened to that episode, I would put that in my top 5 of our episodes that I would recommend for everybody to listen to, because it really opened up things that I had never considered in my personal life as well as within the industry. So like I'm always saying, this isn't just for survivors. We are all survivors of this. We are all touched by this in some way. And I think if that episode gives a really good kind of trail opening for women to start thinking about our lives and what's happened and how it's affected us.
And to say something hopeful in the midst of all this horror, I absolutely want Jean Sarson and Linda MacDonald to come back, because they don't just do work on what is violence, how do we name it, which is super important. They also do a lot on healing from it. And they said, I think they said it in the interview, they said, we kind of refuse to believe that women are irreparably broken and that they're just, all these women beyond help. Mm-hmm. And they do recovery programs. They are themselves survivors of intimate partner violence. And they do recovery programs where they say, if you, and which I would like to ask them, what are they doing? What have they found is healing to a lot of women? And I think it's part of the violence to tell victim, which abusers do all the time, that they are irreparably broken.
Mhm.
We'll also talk about with Dr. Jess Taylor about exactly this.
Yes.
Where the society then comes in. Oh, this totally connects to Epstein 1,000 ways. One of the earliest women who spoke up against Epstein, I believe her name is Karen Muller. I do not want to get this wrong. Let me just look it up. But she was a supermodel who ended up abused, and she was speaking out. And what happened to her? They put her in a psychiatric clinic and declared her insane. So let me just, I do not want to give the wrong name. People can investigate this themselves. Sorry, just a second.
While you're looking that up, what you're saying also relates to some of what we talked to Derek Jensen about this week, which will be coming out in some upcoming weeks, about this idea, this myth that trauma survivors are unequipped and maladapted to be able to participate and influence larger society. And the truth is, once women heal from this, that's what runs society. I think women who have faced the enormity of their lives and put themselves back together with the help of other women. And I've been in touch with You, My Sister in the UK, who they do these courses for survivors of the sex industry and also domestic abuse. And you see these brilliant just powerhouses coming out of every sister that we walk with through this healing journey. Warrior. And I think I said last week, I always felt like the stupidest thing they ever did was leave me alive. That was really a bad idea on them.
Do you want to tell people about your profile picture for all of those who don't know?
Oh, did somebody ask? That's truth coming up out of the well. And I did not prepare to tell you the story about truth coming up out of the well.
If you want to tell it next time, no, it's.
But yes, I can tell it next time. I will prepare it this week, and I will tell it next time. But she's mad. She's naked and she's mad, and that's a powerful force. So that's why they want us to think that we're broken.
Yeah. And I just looked up the name. So the name of one of the first whistleblowers on Epstein, her name is Karen Mulder. So Mulder. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. But people can look her up. And if I can plug another woman who I'm right now finding whose work is helpful to me, she's a musician, also artist, visual artist. Her name is Paris Paloma. Sybil Jo, do you know Paris Paloma?
No.
She's a British singer-songwriter who makes the most beautiful, poetic, angry, healing, gorgeous music about living in this. Everything we talked about, living in this.
Oh, she's definitely going on my playlist.
She's incredible. If we can, I just saw that she does podcasts. Oh my God. If I'm such a fan, like this is where I'm gonna,
yes. You're flushing.
Yeah. Cause I sing her songs every day. Like, you know, and
that's exactly how I felt this week
with Derek Jensen.
With Derek Jensen and Leah Keith.
And I was I by accident saw that Paris Paloma does podcasts, and she disclosed very openly that she's a survivor of sexual violence herself. And then what she writes about is processing it, finding herself again, reframing the narrative, putting it big picture. The most famous song she has that people might have come across online is called Labor. So this one keeps going viral on TikTok and elsewhere. And this is like definitely one of these songs where I'm happy it's going viral. The artist, someone's asking her name, Paris Paloma.
Oh, I think I know this song. I think I know the song you're talking about. I love that. And I've always wanted to know what it was and just never.
And what she's done is she re-released the song, but she included the voices of her fans. So fans recorded themselves singing parts of the song. And so there's a special version of Labor. I think it's called Labor Cacophony, which is also the name of her first album. And in it, all these women are singing the song together. She and a chorus of her fans are singing it together. And this is like an anthem. This is like this is all over social media. This is like a resistance song. And she also said, and I love this, she said, Labor, to her, people said, this is the woman's song. She said, no, this is the patriarchy song. So it's a song from the perspective of a woman enduring violence and fearing for her daughter and all the flat, abusive, suffocating roles she has to play for him, for the abuser. But Paraslima says this is not who women are. This is where the box men try to shove us into. But this is not womanhood.
This is not inevitable.
What men do to us is not womanhood. So.
Ooh, and I wonder if she would play some, I was just thinking as you were saying that, I was thinking, oh, I'd love to hear some of her music. And we do a lot of really amazing, informative interviews and conversations on here, but we're also always talking about these healing and these moving forward. We always want to have this positive spin, and sometimes it's hard because it's very bleak. And I think being able to play some music every now and then and kind of do some art around, do this healing stuff together, with the, again, going back to our earlier conversation, art matters. Art is incredibly powerful, and the other side uses it.
Yeah.
They're very good at it.
Yeah.
They're they're in the top of who gets to disseminate reality altering substances, because that's what art is. And so, I would love if we could have some musicians on, and I listen to WLRN, and they really incorporate music in a great way throughout their episodes.
I wish we could. I mean, it's the
I know.
And that's obviously I want to respect the artists too, and not just steal it. So
that's above our pay grade, of course. But I would actually rather have the artists on and have them share with us, and because it's that communal, that when you describe the fans singing back, and I'm thinking back to the old labor movement folk singers here in the U.S. I love Utah Phillips. He's a huge inspiration to me, and I love singing, and I love the concept of folk music where we are doing this, we're creating this cultural reality together. And I think that's a big puzzle piece that we need. Yes.
And it's hard because you're trying to heal while the storm is raging, and it seems to never stop or even pause. Andrea Dworkin called for a 24-hour truce. No rape, no femicide. We cannot go 24 hours in any major city, frankly. So, but you kind of have to, we have to piece ourselves and each other back together in spite of it, so that we.
And people have done it. People have done it generations before us. I know for me here in the US, we're very disconnected from our labor struggle roots, but they're there. They're there. People have been doing this for a long time and sustaining and surviving. And I try my best to associate myself with my elders and listen to them and think back on the things that I've been told throughout my lifetime by my elders, my grandmothers, anybody who's lived through anything, to just, what am I trying to say?
You don't have to start from scratch.
We're not on this, we have this idea of this linear progressive, like we need to get somewhere and then we can heal, but the healing is in our daily lives. The healing is being able to keep moving forward in this, not waiting for this to change. And the knowledge is there. We know how to do this as a people. We've been doing it for as long as we've been people. So that's the good news.
And my heart goes out to all the Epstein survivors, because I can't even imagine. Like, this is like a dark cloud above my head, and it's not directly anything to do with, well, I mean, we just talked about how everything connects, but it's not directly about me. It's not my abuser on television, you know? How that must feel right now. And not just emotionally, because I'm sorry, I'm going to get really dark again, but I know that they have real reason to fear for their lives, which is why the doxing was so irresponsible and dangerous. And I don't know if this is carelessness or intention.
I don't think it's carelessness. I absolutely do not. There's no. It's a threat. Because again, those of us who have been inside their conversations, we know how they think.
So is there, I mean, I have like 20 more things on my notes, but I feel like the most important, like, key realizations or connections, I think we've done our best to put those out there. Do you feel there's anything we want to say before we go off air? Until next week, we hope to do this weekly. So thank you for everyone. We've had so many comments. Thank you guys so much for engaging and for raging with us and for giving love to the kitty.
Oh, he eats it up. He knows he's the star. That's why he gets away with everything.
But he's not climbing the curtains.
No, I guess that is a good place to wrap it up. And I want to reiterate what you just said. And thank you for saying that about the victims who have survived so far. I think we talked about this with Derek last week a little bit about, do we survive? And what, yeah, and what you just said about just still being in it, and like you said, the real threats to their lives in so many layered ways, but also overt, legitimate murder concern.
Yeah.
And just, I guess, I'm sitting here with my hand on my heart, and I just feel like having this moment of silence for those who haven't survived and the parts of us that haven't and can't survive. And the gratitude. I feel so, so grateful to these women.
We would not know what was going on or how deep it goes without them risking their lives to tell us. And I'm sorry to say another depressing thing. As many people have pointed out, Epstein is he's probably dead. I hate that we can't be certain. But he's probably not right now in New York trafficking actively.
And he's hopefully good.
But someone else probably picked up where he left off.
Of course.
Because the demand did not cease with his vacation of the spot. Which is why this is not at all over. This is in so many ways, we're talking about something of the past, move on. Obviously, Trump's saying, move on. Because he's obviously in this.
And the news cycle will. And that's why he's so annoyed with it, because he knows it will. Is
he going to start a war to distract us? Because when there's a war, women and girls, they are never a priority. But when there's a war, like, we drop another 50 places below, like, shoe production. So sorry to end it on that note.
No, it's true. And it's going to get ugly. And that's all the more reason why, we have to, again, going back to what you were saying about, what are their names? The non-state torture. I always forget their names. Linda MacDonald and Jean Sarson. Linda and Jane.
Jean.
Jean. Sorry, Jean. I think healed survivors are the most powerful force on the planet.
Yeah.
So the problem is big, but they just keep creating the solution. And as long as we're holding hands through it, I think we got this.
So I'll end it there. I'd like to end it on that note. Thank you, everyone, for listening all the way to the end. And
thank you, guys.
I hope you'll be with us again next week. Thank you so much.